The town center. Whether it looks like this, or looks like this, or looks like all of this, you're probably familiar with the town center if you know Age of Empires 2. It is the most important building. If you don't have a town center, then you're going to be in trouble. This video is your town center tips. The first and most important tip when it comes to town centers is simply keeping it working all the time. I know, it seems like a crazy task, but the more you create, the more you're going to bring in the long run. This is why most build orders have you create villagers non-stop until you can naturally bring in the food to, say, go feudal age around 20 or 21 pop. Or this is why one of the better strategies in the game is to go castle age and make more town centers, then invest into more villagers, which will then bring you more resources. This is an obvious one, but I say this because, well, first off, some people are new. They don't necessarily know this is important. Then the second one is because oftentimes you don't realize you're not creating vills. So keep an eye on it. We've all done what that meme shows, and just create extra villagers. Over the years, people have found different ways of creating villagers, and ultimately it comes down to preference. But recently with the Definitive Edition, there is a select All TC hotkey. So it is generally worth having a hotkey set up to select all of your TCs. Most of the time, you'll want to be producing out of all of them all the time, so it just makes sense to select it, even if you're on one TC. There are many benefits to this. One benefit is that it's just easier to boom, so you don't have to cycle through all your TCs. But the other benefit is it helps with multitasking. If you're controlling an army or looking in the middle of the map, you're actually able to select your town centers and then use your Create Villager hotkey in the midst of battle. It is one thing that has really risen the level of DE if you look at the high level. It's the reason the micro is so good is because, well, you're not actually looking back home all the time. The next town center tip involves that town bell. A lot of newer players experience some level of panic when they're being raided, and this leads them to ringing the town bell. Live your life. I want you to do what you want to do in game, but I would suggest that you do not do this. Ringing the town bell does save your villagers, yes, but it also makes all the villagers seek shelter or safety, causing your entire economy to go idle. Instead, you should focus on garrisoning the villagers in the areas that are being raided and most at risk. And then press the Go Back to Work hotkey, which will send the villagers back to the tasks just like unringing the town bell does. You do not need to ungarrison them out of the TC and then cause that headache where villagers all go to the same task and you have to sort it out. A lot of people have the town bell set as B. I do. I always have. I still haven't removed it. I don't follow my own advice. Maybe, just maybe, remove that hotkey, change it to something else, that way you don't accidentally ring the town bell. Again, I do this a lot. I'll accidentally ring it with B, because B is also for build, and suddenly there's a ring-a-ling-ding and 50 villagers go idle. It's not good. The next town center tip has to do with distinguishing between ungarrison versus return to work. A lot of people don't know this, but when you put villagers inside of a town center, there are two options to then send them out. Ungarrison has them eject and head to the set gather point. This is obviously very useful if you're going somewhere for a certain task. And then return to work has the villagers return to the job they were doing before you put them in the town center. Now, obviously, there's a massive difference between the two of them. And what I see at lower elos is players don't know that return to work exists. And so they'll send everything into the town center for whatever reason. And then they send everyone to where the gather point is, meaning that villagers are no longer at their desired jobs. This creates a headache where you have to click things manually, and this is a mess that a lot of people end up avoiding by just doing other things, like clicking the town bell. So make sure you take a look. There is ungarrison, which sends them to a certain point, and then also return to work. Both of these things are extremely helpful. And small side note, this also works for villagers in towers and castles too. So if you build a castle with quite a few villagers you pulled off of farms, you can put them in the castle, you can click return to work, and they'll actually go back to where they were before. The next town center tip comes down to shooting units. Now, I know we all have probably lost our scout to an enemy town center, and what they do is they garrison inside the town center, the arrows fire, and unfortunately for us, our scout goes down. That's fairly standard stuff. But it's important to know how the dodge those arrows. If you're running perpendicular to those arrows, you are actually going to be able to dodge Dark Age arrows. So your instinct sometimes is to run straight the other direction when you're being attacked by the town center. But if you do that, the arrows are just going to hit you from behind and you're going to take more damage. So if you encounter an enemy town center, the best thing you can do is run perpendicular to it, and you will actually dodge the majority of those arrows. The final TC tip comes down to killing boars, something that high-level players are doing more and more nowadays. This involves shooting the boar with Garrison villagers to weaken it, but you have to eject to get the final shot with Vils. Otherwise, you can't collect any of the food. There's 3 common ways we tend to see this. The first one is you have 4 villagers garrisoned, and then you fire 3 shots onto the boar, then set the gather point, and then shoot to kill. The next one is 5 inside the TC, then 2 shots, you will eject, you will shoot twice to kill. And then the final one is 6 inside the TC, 2 shots, eject, and then it is 1 shot from the villagers to kill. This is tough though, because to fire upon the boar, you have to right-click with the TC. And then, using the set gather point hotkey, you set the gather point on top of the boar, and then press eject so your villagers arrive on top of the boar and immediately fire. This is tricky. I could tell it's already stressing some of you out. Don't feel like you have to do this, but that is the final town center tip. And that is it for the TC tips video. I hope you guys enjoyed this content, and if you did, please consider leaving a like on the video and also leaving a comment of which part you weren't aware of until this upload. It's my goal to continue to put out great commentary from low elo legends to community games to high elo content, but also introduce more and more content like this. So thank you guys for the support. It's been amazing to see the community growing and blooming recently, and it means a lot to me. Final thing I'll mention, and perhaps I don't mention this enough, but if you're someone who likes to drink coffee out of a mug or wear a t-shirt, I do actually have some really cool merch. We've got some low elo legend stuff in there. Next game for us, nothing. We're going to be sprucing it up a little bit, but I wanted to let you know because A, a lot of people don't know about it, but also B, I donate 100% of all my revenue there at the end of the year to charity. And when the year concludes, I'll make a video about that. We'll talk about that, and it'll be a good time. Anyways, thanks again for watching. I'll see you all soon.